So I did a video about Josh Hawley grilling, and I mean grilling, Merrick Garland of the Department of Justice, the head of the department. And here we have Ted Cruz doing the same. It is a great exchange, very compelling.
As you know, as I observed at your confirmation hearing, you had built a long record on the Federal Court of Appeals and a reputation of being relatively nonpartisan. And so I had hopes that your tenure as Attorney General would continue that record. I have to say I'm deeply disappointed in what the last 2 years have shown. In my judgment, the Department of Justice has been politicized to the greatest extent I've ever seen in this country. And it has done a discredit to the Department of Justice, to the FBI, and to the administration of law in this country. Let me start with a simple question. General Garland, is it a federal crime to protest outside of a judge's home with the intent of influencing that judge as to a pending case?
The answer to that is yes, but I also want to at least respond to your characterization of the department, which
Sure.
I vigorously disagree with. I believe the men and women of the department pursue their work every single day in a nonpartisan and an appropriate
General
way.
Garland, there are thousands of men and women who do that. And I'll tell you, I hear from prosecutors at the Department of Justice. I hear from agents at the FBI who are angry that it is treated as the enforcement arm for the DNC instead of upholding the law in a fair and even-handed manner. So you are right. There are thousands of men and women that are doing the job, but it is the political leadership that you're responsible for. So you just said, yes, it's a crime to protest at the home of a judge. Same goes for jurors, by the way, with the intent of influencing a case. But in the wake of the leak of the Dobbs decision, when rioters descended on the homes of 6 Supreme Court justices, night after night after night, you did nothing. The department did nothing. When extremist groups like Ruth Sent Us and Jane's Revenge openly organized campaigns of harassment at the homes of justices, you sat on your hands. When these same groups posted online information about where the justices worship, or their home addresses, or where their kids went to school, you again sat on your hands and did nothing. Your failure to act to protect the safety of the justices and their families was an obvious product of political bias. You agree with Roe versus Wade. You disagree with the Dobbs decision. And the Department of Justice under this president was perfectly happy to refuse to enforce the law and allow threats of violence. And as you know, those threats finally materialized with Nicholas Roski, a 26-year-old man from California who traveled across the country, was arrested outside the home of Justice Kavanaugh, armed with a handgun, a knife, and burglary tools. And he said he came there to kill Justice Kavanaugh because he was enraged by the leaked opinion. Now, of course, you're prosecuting that individual for attempted murder. But did you bring even a single case to enforce this law, or did the Department of Justice decide this law doesn't apply if it's harassing justices for an opinion we don't like?
When the Dobbs draft was leaked, I did something no Attorney General in the history of the department had ever done before. For the first time in history, I ordered United States Marshals 24/7 to defend every residence of every justice.
Well, Garland, as a judge, you're familiar with asking counsel to answer a question.
I am answering.
Has the Department of Justice enforced this statute? Have you brought a single case against any of these protesters threatening the justices under 18 U.S.C. Section 1507? Have you brought even one?
Senator, you asked me whether I sat on my hands, and quite.
No, actually, he did not ask you whether or not you sat on your hands. He said that you sat on your hands. The question was whether or not you brought any charges against these people that are breaking a law that you've admitted that they are breaking. So the question is, why have no charges been brought? And it's because of the politicization of the Justice Department. That is obvious. So he is deflecting the question and not answering it, and then reframing the question into what Cruz did not ask, or just responding to his own ego via his own ego that he sat on his hands. That's not what Cruz was asking.
The opposite. I sent 70 United States Marshals.
Let me try again.
To defend, and
has the Department of Justice brought even a single case under this statute? It's a yes/no question. It's not a give a speech on the other things you did.
The job of the United States Marshals is to defend the lives
So
of
the answer is no.
Is to defend the lives of the justices, and that's their number one priority. They have.
Why are you unwilling to say no? The answer is no. You know it's no. I know it's no. Everyone in this hearing room knows it's no. You're not willing to answer a question. Have you brought a case under this statute? Yes or no?
As far as I know, we haven't, and what we have done is defended the lives of the justices with over 70 U.S. Marshals.
How do you decide which criminal statutes the DOJ enforces and which one it doesn't?
The United States Marshals know that they have full authority.
I recognize you want to give a separate speech.
No, I don't want to give
How do you decide which statutes you enforce and which ones you don't?
The Marshals on scene make that determination in light of the priority of defense.
The Marshals do not make a determination over whether to prosecute. You, the Attorney General, make a determination, and you spent 20 years as a judge, and you're perfectly content with justices being afraid for their children's lives, and you did nothing to prosecute it. Let's shift to another area.
Can I answer the question?
No, you cannot. You have refused to answer the question.
I am answering your question. The Attorney General does not decide whether to arrest.
How did you choose not to?
So what Garland's saying is absolutely false. It is not the determination only of the U.S. Marshals as to whom to arrest. Otherwise, who do you think ordered, and Cruz is going to get to this, the invasion, the home invasion of somebody who agreed to turn himself in, a pro-life counselor who allegedly assaulted somebody away 100 feet, 100 yards, I'm not sure which, away from the abortion clinic, who came at him, insulted him in front of his son, threatened his son, something to that effect. Who else gave the order to arrest that man? Was it the U.S. Marshals that decided after the Philadelphia district attorney declined to prosecute? Obviously, it was Merrick Garland. It was the politicization of the Justice Department.
To enforce this statute.
The Marshals on scene.
Marshals don't make that decision.
They do make the decision of whether to make an arrest.
Prosecute someone? No, they don't.
If they make
Marshals do not have prosecution.
If they make an arrest, then it goes to the Marshals.
Let's change topics because our time is limited. We've also seen across the country violent attacks to pregnancy centers by similar left-wing terrorist groups, including one graffiti of a firebomb building said Jane was here. There have been attacks all over the country. And yet, the Department of Justice has not brought these violent criminals to justice. You contrast that. If you're a violent criminal and you attack a crisis pregnancy center, that is not a priority in the Biden Department of Justice. Contrast that to Mark Houck, who's
Sorry,
a
I brought this
pro-life
up early.
activist. He's a sidewalk counselor. And he had an altercation with someone who allegedly interfered with his son's personal space and threatened his son, and he pushed him. Now, in an ordinary world, pushing someone would be maybe a simple misdemeanor assault, but not under the Biden Department of Justice. If you're a pro-life activist, what can you expect? Well, in this instance, according to Mr. Houck's wife, 24 agents clad in body armor and ballistic helmets and shields and a battering ram showed up at his house pointing rifles at his family. Why do you send 24 agents in body armor to arrest a sidewalk counselor who happens to be pro-life, but you don't devote resources to prosecute people who are violently firebombing crisis pregnancies?
It is a priority of the department to prosecute and investigate and find the people who are doing those firebombings. They are doing it at night.
If what he's saying is true, if it's a priority for the FBI, then he should be out of the job because he is head of the Justice Department. Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, should be out of a job because it's obviously not a priority. They sent 15 agents to investigate the rope pool on Bubba Wallace's garage. The idea that it was racist, that it represented a noose. And this is the NASCAR driver, Bubba Wallace. They sent 15 FBI agents to investigate when they thought that it might be racist. Yet they allow, obviously, these criminals to get away with firebombing pregnancy crisis centers where they try to persuade individuals from having an abortion, tell them that there's another option. This is a lie by Merrick Garland. And anybody who doubts it, please leave me your opinion as to why I'm wrong here in the comment section.
And in secret. So, and we have found one group which we did prosecute.
You found one. How many have there been? How many attacks?
There have been a lot. And if you have any information specifically as to who those people
That's not
are,
Ted
we
Cruz's
would
job.
we would be glad to have
Did
that.
you personally authorize 20 agents going to Mr. Houck's house? And he offered to turn himself in through counsel, but you didn't want that. The Department of Justice wanted to make a show of it. Did you personally authorize it? And do you want to apologize to Mrs. Houck and her 7 children for being terrorized?
The decisions about how to do that are made at the level of the FBI agents on scene.
Did you know about it?
I did not know about it until the way you're describing it. And my understanding is the FBI.
Again, imagine being a family and having 30 agents sent to your door with a battering ram, with guns, long guns. It is despicable. And he offered to turn himself in. Hey, I'm turning myself in, and yet you expend all these resources sending the FBI agents with guns to somebody that offered to turn himself in and face whatever justice he was going to face. Instead, of course, of investigating firebombings of these pregnancy crisis centers. Again, if you guys have a different take on this, I want to know.
Disagrees with that description.
Was it a mistake?
Senator's time has expired. I'm going to allow the witness to respond to any of the questions that were asked.
Was it a mistake?
I'm going to chair the committee, Senator. I'm sorry you're not.
You said you'd allow him to respond. I repeated the question I asked, which is, was it a mistake to send 20 agents to arrest him at the crack of dawn?
You had your time and more
You just
than
said you're going to allow him to respond. You just said, I'm going to allow him to respond to the question, so I repeated the question. Was it a mistake?
You
That
asked
was the pending
questions you want to
question.
ask. I'll ask the questions I want.
That's the question I had already asked.
Well,
You just said you'd let him respond.
I'm going to let him respond right
Good.
now. Please don't interrupt him. Thank you.
The decisions about how to do tactical arrests are made by the FBI agents in the field. The FBI has publicly stated that it disagrees with the description you gave of what happened in that example. That's the best I can answer.
So what exactly, Mr. Garland, do you think that the FBI disagreed with? Oh, it was 29 agents, not 30 agents. Was it something like that? A minutia detail that does not detract from the overall story that this woman is trying to tell about her children being terrorized, her 7 children being in the house being barged into with people with long guns, battering ram, and you're going to tell me that, oh, well, the FBI disagrees with the way that you're describing it. It's once again one of these linguistic tricks that these assholes do where they try to nullify your statement with a minutia that you might have gotten wrong instead of the overall argument. And once again, Merrick Garland is obviously politicizing the FBI, and he should be thrown out. This whole administration, in my opinion, should be thrown out because they are not administrating justice in an equitable manner, where justice is blind, where it only matters what you do. And this is the same thing from Obama's lowest learner IRS that went after conservative organizations that they did not like. They are politicizing the institutions of the United States, and they are turning Americans against each other because some people feel that they are mistreated. And anybody who has had their case, an investigation that did not go as victims as they send 15 people to investigate Bubba Wallace, as they send all of these 30 agents, 20 agents to go after somebody that agreed to turn himself in, that was ultimately acquitted in 1 hour by a jury, that the Philadelphia DA, Larry Krasner, refused to take the case, but the Justice Department wanted to put fear into the hearts of any American that would stand up to him, which is why they have this show of force. Again, if you think that I'm wrong, please describe to me why and how, because I'm very curious as to your opinion on this. So by all means, leave a comment below, thumb up the video, and know that Merrick Garland should be gone, that he's politicized the Justice Department, that I don't believe for a second that he's going after the people that firebombed these clinics. Oh my God, it's the FBI, and they did it in the cover of darkness, so we have no idea who did it. All of these bombings. No, they are letting them do this the same way that they let Black Lives Matter run amok, Antifa run amok with barely any repercussions, if any, whereas anybody that participated in January 6th is in jail without bail, and people in New York, Black Lives Matter advocates, are getting $21,500 when we went out and looked for a fight with the police, and then they might have been hit with a baton or pepper sprayed or corralled, whatever, when a person that throws a lawyer that throws a firebomb into a police car gets 1 year in jail, and all of the January 6th protesters that are in jail without, in solitary confinement for well over that, for walking into a building that they might have not should have in that moment. Okay, obviously a little bit ticked at Merrick Garland, but Ted Cruz did a wonderful job. It was a little bit more theater than the cross-examination by Josh Hawley, which was just superb. You can find that video in the description of this one. And guys, again, leave me your comments. Let me know what you think. Thumb up the video, share it, and subscribe. Peace.